People ask me all the time, Misty, what made you get into life insurance? And I joke, I say, didn't you want to grow up and be a life insurance broker when you were a kid too? But the serious fact is, I got into the industry because of the heart. When I was a child, I very, very much remember the police knocking on our door at like 3 in the morning on a very foggy night and explaining to my mom that my dad was in a car accident. Obviously, she didn't plan for that. Um, and she definitely didn't plan for what was coming after that, which was, she now had two small children, a mortgage, and a paycheck that she just lost. So, had somebody sat down my parents, who were in their 30s at the time, and explained to them, having a life insurance plan because you do have two small children, you do have a mortgage, you do rely on each other's paychecks, could make a really big impact if something happened to one of you. Because what followed next, because they didn't have a plan in place, was we went from living into my childhood home, which I loved very much for obvious reasons. It was a very cute two-story house in a very desired area in our little village because my parents did very well together with two incomes. But when my mom now suddenly inherited a ton of medical bills because, obviously the hospital exhausted all efforts, brought my dad back from, you know, coding 3 times. That's not, he was life flighted. That was a lot of medical bills she inherited. The fact is, she worked really hard. She wasn't a stay-at-home mom. She worked hard, but she couldn't afford the mortgage on her own, especially with two children and inheriting a ton of medical bills. I watched my mom have to dig herself out of financial disaster from that accident. That was no fault of her own. For years, it affected her credit. She, had to give up the house. I went from having a beautiful, bedroom where my best friend, I can see her house from outside my bedroom window to now I'm sharing a room with my brother who, our room wasn't even big enough to take all of our belongings. So we had to, give up stuff of our own. So having a plan in place and helping families is super important to me. Very important. You know, I get so frustrated when I see people that pay for car insurance. They pay for homeowners insurance. I really hate when I see people pay for phone insurance, which sometimes your phone insurance costs as much as your life insurance policy would cost. So when I hear people tell me, Misty, I can't afford life insurance, it tells me you're just not prioritizing it. You're not prioritizing your family. Car insurance, phone insurance, homeowners insurance, those are things you may never, ever, ever use. You don't know that you're ever going to have to make a car insurance claim. How many hundreds of dollars a month do you spend on car insurance? If you died tomorrow and your spouse and your family lost your income, like my mom, did when we were little, how would that impact your family tomorrow? What does next month look like for them? It's about having your priorities in place because whether you like it or not, at some point you will pass away. So life insurance is unlike car insurance, unlike homeowners insurance, it is a plan you will eventually use someday and it will benefit your family. If someone counts on your paycheck, whether it's a spouse, whether it's your children, whether it's aging parents, do you know how many people in this day's economy tell me, yeah, I helped my parents? I talked to a life insurance agent last week who tells me she helps her mom. If something happened to her mom would be in financial trouble if she didn't have a policy in place. So I'm not here to scare you. I'm not here to guilt trip you. I'm just here to say, if nobody's ever sat down and talked to you and explained, these are your options, let's have a conversation. It's a simple conversation. I'm not going to beat you up. I'm not going to make you feel guilty, but I am going to point out the scenarios of the inevitable because I've lived it. That's why I got life insurance. That's why I'm an expert in this industry because I take the time to learn every carrier we work with, every benefit, because your needs might not be the same as your neighbor's needs. Maybe their mortgage isn't the same. Maybe their retirement isn't the same. Maybe their children are grown and yours are just beginning. I helped a family last year who is local to us. Never in a million years when I put them in that plan did I think a year later we'd be making a death claim. But that's the reality. They have 6 children combined. He was the main breadwinner. Had we not put that plan on place in them, her kids would be in the same financial situation I was as a child. So I take great pride that I help them. I hope I can help your family too.